Anybody wanna know how I'm still standing? I made it. Yes, I made it. By the grace of God. God grace. God grace. God grace. It's amazing grace. I made it this far. By the grace of God. God grace. It was God's grace. I made it this far by the grace of God. Hallelujah. Bishop, I know it's God's grace. Down the dangerous highways and the byways at night, facing the deer and the atmosphere. It was God's grace. That's how you make it. It was God's grace. And you brought a bunch of us with you. God's grace. Truly, truly. I was singing the right song. As Terry was saying the right time. God's grace. Made it this far by the grace of God. Bishop, I know you could have been taken out a long time ago, but by his grace and his mercy, you were not consumed. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord, for preserving me. Amen. We're here to celebrate. Don't y'all know we're here to celebrate? Now, a celebration, you're supposed to have some fun. Amen. And a celebration where everybody's supposed to be happy. This is a celebration. We got a man who's been serving this church for 42 years. 42 years. It's a blessing to be living 42 years. It's a blessing to serve a group of people for 42 years. The highs and the lows, the comes and the goes. But it was consistent in serving. And for that, Bishop, we thank you. So today we came to celebrate the man of God. And we came to celebrate and lift up the name of Jesus. Because if it wasn't for his grace and his mercy, we would have been consumed. Thank you, God, for your goodness and your mercy. Truly, I thank God for this opportunity. Bishop, I know you know bishops all over this world. Pastors. Men who've been preaching for 30, 40, 50 years. But I thank God that I got this opportunity. By the grace of God, he'll speak through me to encourage you. And you too, Mama P. By the grace of God. Man, truly, I thank God for my being here. Bishop Johnson, Lady Johnson, good to see you guys here.
Amen.
To that woman who gave that lovely introduction.
All right, yeah.
who I chose.
That's right.
I found her.
All right.
I chose her.
All right.
And she's my good thing.
That's right. Yeah.
Searched for a long time, but I found her. And I got the right one, baby.
That's all right.
I thank God I see some members of my trustee board here.
Amen.
God bless y'all.
Amen.
More, my sister's here.
Amen.
My oldest sister. By a couple minutes, but she's still my oldest sister. Thank you for coming down from Greensboro. And I just want to thank all the household of faith. You, and especially you. And I just want to tell you that I'm a teacher preacher.
All right.
So if you got your notebooks out, you might want to use them.
Good.
I'm a Sunday school teacher advanced.
Uh-huh.
All right.
So that's what I like to do is teach a lesson. So that you get a clear understanding of what the Spirit is saying to the
All
church.
right now.
And you are the church.
All right.
Each and every one of you are a piece of the church. And you carry the church in you.
Amen.
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 If y'all would, I don't want to hold you up any longer. Go with me to Exodus 17. Exodus 17. And when you get there, please stand to your feet. I want to read something into your hearing. And when you get to Exodus 17, go down to the 8th verse. And we will begin there. I'm waiting on you. I know many times we're in a rush to get started, but thankfully everything kind of flowed very smooth this morning.
Amen.
So we're going to get through this as fast as possible, but I want to make sure that the points are made. And we're going to start at Exodus 17, verse 8. And it says, Then came Amalek and fought with Israel and Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, Choose us our men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. And it came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side, and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. If y'all would just bear with me for a few kingdom minutes, I want to talk to you today about hold up the standard.
All right.
You can have your seat. Hold up the standard.
That's good, son.
Now, let's get into some words here. One word that I want to talk to you about is standard.
Okay.
What is standard? Standard is a level of quality or attainment which is used as an authoritative or permanent value. As an authoritative or permanent value.
All right.
Okay, and since we are approaching Veterans Day, some say it's today, some say it's tomorrow, I know they celebrate tomorrow, I want to put it in a military connotation.
All right.
A military or ceremonial flag carried on a pole or hoisted on a rope used as a rallying point. That's the standard. We all know it in the military as a guidon. Amen? The guidon is one of the most important things that a military unit has. To me, at first when we get into the military, we're trying to figure this thing out because they make a big deal about this thing called a guidon. Why is this thing called a guidon so important? Well, historically looking at a guidon, what a guidon is that thing that the units use as a rallying point.
That's right.
Amen?
Right.
Many of you have been in the military, you know what I'm talking about. It's the flag that sits outside the unit headquarters.
Amen.
And in the morning when you do PT, the guidon is normally present. If you do regular PT, the guidon may stay in front of the headquarters. But if you do unit PT, where you go out and everybody in unit, the company, the battalion, the brigade, where they do these big runs. Some may be 5 miles, some may be 10 miles. The guidon is always present.
Amen.
Why? Because the guidon is the flag that represents the integrity and the superiority of your unit.
That's right.
Can I get a witness in you military people out there?
That's right.
Well, that guidon thing, what happens is, whenever the guidon is lifted up, then the soldier can rotate itself and move to the front of the formation.
That's right.
The front of the formation is where the guidon bearer resides. In a PT run, the guidon bearer is going to be out front.
That's right.
And the guidon bearer is going to be normally that strongest or that more robust soldier that you have in your unit. Can I get a witness? And the guidon bearer is the one that's going to run out in front of the formation so the rest of the soldiers in the formation can get a look at it and continue to be motivated to carry out the run.
Amen.
Can I get a witness? And watch this. Also, the reason that's in peacetime, but now in wartime, the guidon is used in the same way. When a unit is at war, they take the guidon and they put it at the front so the soldiers can see it. I'm going to remind you of this. Some of you are Western fans. You remember the old Westerns when the settlers were moving west and they were taking over the land of the natives and they were traveling out in wagon trains, and while they were traveling out, the Native Americans would come out and they would attack the wagon trains, and all of a sudden you see in the background, here comes the cavalry. If you ever notice the formations in the cavalry, there's going to be a bugle player and there's going to be the guidon bearer. That guidon bearer is that one that carries the flag of the unit into combat.
That's right.
Can I get a witness?
Amen.
Now, no matter what happens to the guidon bearer, if he happens to fall, then the next man in line grabs the guidon to move the unit forward. Why? Because if the unit becomes discouraged and start to fall apart, then they're going to lose the battle.
That's right.
But if they can focus on the guidon, they're going to lean towards having a great level of success. That's why I'm telling you to hold up the standard. Because the guidon is a standard for a military unit, be it Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard. Every unit has a guidon. They have a standard. The military has a standard. They taught us when I went to OCS, never apologize for high standards.
That's right.
See, that's the thing about us as Christendom. We should never apologize for having high standards. Can I get a witness? That doesn't mean that you look down on people that don't have the same standards that you have, but you should be always willing to reach down and grab them up by the hand and love them enough to want to walk according to the standard of God. Hold up the standard.
That's good. That's good.
Well, in the midst of a combat situation, when you have enemy coming from all around and the unit gets discombobulated and you got people attacking you from all sides, you look to the standard.
That's it.
That's going to encourage you to go just a little bit further.
All right.
Now here in the text, what we do, we find the children of Israel, they're taking a walk from a region called Sin. It was called the wilderness of Sin. And it was an area in the modern day Sinai Peninsula, which we have a military contingent there right now.
All right.
Here we find them on the other side of the Red Sea after they had crossed over on dry land. Now mind you, when they crossed over on dry land, the Red Sea was at its flood stage. The Red Sea had flooded over its banks. And when Moses raised up his rod, the waters rolled back and the children of Israel walked over on dry land. See, the rod was Moses' standard. Can I get a witness? Now, when the children of Israel crossed over on dry ground, they were leaving over 430 years of servitude.
That's right.
They were captives. They first went over there voluntarily because there was famine in their land, but then they got trapped up in servitude. Be careful what you walk into voluntarily. Sometimes you can get trapped into a situation. Amen. And when we join them in this text, we were finding them departing out of this wilderness, and the thing about this wilderness, it was marred down with clay. There was clay and wet and dampness everywhere. And so whenever you farmers know, when you have clay land, sometimes it can mar you down.
Yes.
The muck and the mar, reclaim. I heard Bishop talk about it all the time. That mar, and not only did it have clay that would mar you down, but it also had thorns and thistles there.
Right.
And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness of sin, they began to murmur and complain. Why were they murmuring and complaining? Because there was no water in the land. Even though it was wet and it was muddy, there was no clean water to drink. As well as they didn't have any bread to eat, or they didn't have any meat that they wanted in this land called sin. So oftentimes we find ourselves in this area called sin. And sometimes we get comfortable with it.
I know it's right.
Go ahead
Preach
now.
on preach.
Help me, Holy Ghost. So they began to complain to their leader Moses, and then Moses said unto them, Moses said, would to God that we have died in the land of the Lord of Egypt. They were saying, why did you bring us out here, Moses, so that we could die? We could have died back in Pharaoh. At least back in Pharaoh's land in Egypt, we had some meat to eat, and we had some bread to eat, and we had some water to drink. Although they were overwhelming us with work, we still had something to eat.
Yes.
They could not get Egypt out of their system. They were out of Egypt, but Egypt was still in them. That's why we got a whole understanding. They said that when we sat by the flesh pots, we did eat bread to the full. And we drank to our heart's content. Are you out here to kill this whole assembly? Is that why you brought us out here on a death mission? You brought us out here. We were in servitude, but we were living. Now it looks like we're going to die.
Yes, sir.
Help me, Holy Ghost.
Preach on preach.
So they began to fuss and they began to chide with Moses. And so Moses called on God. He called on God, and God said, well, Moses, I'm going to take you to another place. Because mind you, they still had some stuff in them from Egypt, so he couldn't take them into the promised land just yet. So he began to take them to this place called Rephidim. And when he got there, he gave them some specific instructions. He said, I'm going to provide for you manna in this wilderness place.
Yes, sir.
For 5 days, I want you to gather just enough for you to eat for that day. And on the 6th day, I want you to gather enough to eat for 2 days.
Yes, sir.
Because on that 7th day, I want you to rest. I'm not going to provide any manna on that 7th day. He said, on that 7th day, I want you to stay in your tent and chill out.
Yes, sir. That's good.
I don't want you to go out looking for nothing. I don't want you going out doing nothing. I just want you to chill out, and I want you to think about the goodness that I have been to you. So watch this. And so the children of Israel journeyed from that wilderness of sin, and en route, they were en route to the promised land, and according to the commandment of the Lord, because the Lord commanded them to leave sin. Don't you know that the Lord is commanding you right now to leave sin? He's looking for a people that will turn their back on sin and get out of that wilderness. But in the midst of it all, sometimes we find ourselves drifting back into sin, where the thorns and the thistles are. But God is trying to get us to get out of sin completely and come to this place that he has ordained for us to be. Because in this place that he ordains for us to be, there's going to be peace. There's going to be joy. There's going to be happiness. Now, on the other hand, you got some people that say, well, Elder, I've been out of sin for a while and I'm miserable. You took me out of sin. You took me to a resting place. But now, just like the children of Israel, I'm in this resting place and there's still no water. Yeah, I got this manna, but it's drying me up. The quails are still coming in the evening, but it's drying me up because there's no water to drink. And if I keep up at this pace, I'm going to die, my wife is going to die, and my children are going to die, and my cow is going to die. So they began to chide with Moses. That means to talk about it. That means to criticize it. And some of them wanted to lay their hands on it. Can I get a witness? Here he was in the midst of it. They had come out from the wilderness of sin, and now they were in a dry place. Don't you know when God takes you to another level, sometimes you're going to find yourself in a place that seems dry. Waiting on that next word from the Lord. But oftentimes God has already given you instructions, and sometimes we fail to follow those instructions. So we find ourselves located in a dry place. And we began to complain about thirst. But if you just go on the last thing that God gave you to do, you will be all right. Sometimes stay on those last instructions that God gave us so we can walk according to the things he had called us to walk. Can I get a witness? So they began to strive and complain with their leader Moses. And at the same time, what they didn't realize is that they were also tempting God. Because you got to remember, they were being led by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. So God was still with them. And he was still raining manna down in the morning and quail in the evening. None of that had changed, but yet and still in the midst of that situation, they began to question, was God on their side? My God, my God. Sometimes you get out there doing God's business and you wonder, is God on your side? The reason why, because you're in unfamiliar territory. That's why you got to lift up the standard. And you got to hold it up. Because God is trying to take you to another place in him. And that's an unfamiliar place for you because you've never been there before.
That's right.
See, right now, Bishop's going into his 43rd year. Never been there before. He's coming out of the bishopry. He hasn't been out of the bishopry in 20 years. New mercies.
Yes, sir.
New mercies. When God takes you to another level, you got to ask for new mercies. And you got to wait, I say, on the Lord.
Yes, sir.
Can I get a witness? Watch this, watch this. And there the people thirsted for water, and they began to murmur more and more against Moses. And Moses started to fear for his own life. So what he did is he cried out to the Lord, saying, what shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. So that's how they used to get rid of you back in the day.
Yes, sir.
They lay hands on you, and they bust you in the head with a rock. Some big rocks. If you ever been over there, there's some mighty big rocks over there. One of them rocks hit you upside the head, you're out of here. Can I get a witness? My God, my God. And the Lord said unto Moses, go on before the people and take with thee the elders of Israel. See, he had to seek through his elders to see who wasn't mumbling and grumbling against him.
Go ahead now. Go ahead.
I hear you.
Sometimes you can be in a position of leadership and you still grumble against your leader.
Go ahead now.
Woo! So I would advise you, if you don't agree with what's going on, just
That's right. That's right.
You can talk yourself out of your blessing.
Amen.
You can talk yourself into a thirsty place. You can talk yourself into a curse. Can I get a witness? If you don't agree with it, just
I know that's right.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
And he said, go before the people and take with thee the elders and thy rod wherewith thou smotest the river, and take thine into thy hand and go. He said, behold, I will stand thee upon a rock in Oreb, and shall smite the rock. Now here it was a man who had come across the desert place, who had separated the river with his rod. Now God was telling him to go up into Mount Oreb, which is in the area of Sinai Peninsula. And he said, go up to the top of this mountain and strike the rock with your rod, and the water's going to come out.
Yes, sir.
And as he said that, guess who were the first partakers of the blessing? The ones that were with him. It said in the word that the elders were the first partakers, and then after the elders partook, then the fathers and the wives and the children and the cattle began to partake in the glory of God. That's why we got to hold up the standard.
Amen.
So it goes just a little bit further, and they found themselves in Rephidim. Rephidim is a place of rest. Rephidim is a place where they're supposed to be enjoying the fruits of the journey.
Yes, sir.
Oftentimes, I heard it said in Sunday school this morning, you've got to enjoy the journey. Many times we look to walk in destiny, but we fail to enjoy the journey. Sometimes you can be so forward focused that you miss the opportunities that are right before you. God is trying to tell us to enjoy the journey. Enjoy your brothers and sisters. Enjoy your ups and your downs. Enjoy your turnaround, because God is in the midst of it all. Hallelujah. And so when the water began to flow and the children and the cattle and the men and the women were fed, just using your spiritual imagination, that they started to be happy all again. They started to enjoy the peace that surpasses all understanding. And then here comes Amalek. My God, my God.
Good, sir. That's good.
Sometimes when you set yourself up for failure, you'll turn around and there will stand Amalek. Now, who is Amalek? Amalek was the grandson of Esau. He was living in the valleys, and he dwelled in the valleys. And so they found themselves in this valley called Rephidim. And as they found themselves in the valley called Rephidim, they began to complain, and so Moses had to rename the valley of rest. He renamed the valley of rest to Massah. And Massah means temptation because they tempted God. And he also named it Meribah. That means strife because they chided with the leader.
That's good. That's good.
Now watch this. As they were chiding with the leader, they probably never went back and repented and said, Moses, we're sorry. They just started enjoying the water that was flowing from the rock at Mount Horeb.
That's right.
If you make a mistake, children of God, get it right.
That's right.
Go back and apologize and get yourself back in the flow of the blessing. Sometimes because pride steps in, we fail to go back and apologize for the wrong that we have done. And so we remain in the curse that we place our own selves in.
Yes, sir.
Hallelujah.
That's good. That's good.
So here they were, and then came Amalek, and he fought with in Israel at their place of rest. And he fought them in a dirty way. He didn't fight them straight up. What he did is he began to take advantage of the weak and the feeble. He began to take advantage of the ones who were dying of thirst and the ones who were sick in their body. Isn't that like the enemy? He'll attack your weakest point first. He exploits your weakest point first. That's why we as the body of Christ must rally around the weak ones with prayer and supplication so that we can strengthen them in the battle. Now here he was. Who is your Amalek? We talk about Amalek. Amalek could be a family member. Amalek could be some indiscretions that you've made. Amalek could be poverty. Amalek could be sickness. But Amalek will attack. And when Amalek attacks, you got to have a standard that you can defend against the Amalek. My God, my God. You see how he came and he spoke the weakest part. And then Moses told Joshua, he said, go within the camp. And I want you to choose out some brave men. Because remember in the next book, Moses told him to be strong and of good courage. Now in the midst of all this chiding and complaining, he had to go and select some good men. So that they could follow him in the battle. And he only had one day to do it. So if you can imagine Joshua walking through the ranks, and said, doggone, I can't pick John because he's talking about Moses. I can't pick Paul because he's talking about Moses. I can't pick Jeffrey because he's talking about Moses. Think about how his selection process had to be. He had to select men of courage, men of honor, to go out and fight the battle. And what Moses told him said, Joshua, you go out, you get the men, you go out, and on tomorrow, me, Aaron, and will go to the top of Mount Horeb. And we'll stand there with the rod of God in my hand. And as you do, when you get in the battle, I want you to just glance up at me every now and then so you can see that the standard is being held up. Don't you know that God has a standard for his people? God has called us to lift up the standard. God has called us to hold up the standard. God is trying to work through us so that he can do his work in the earth. Help me, Holy Ghost. So it came to pass that as Moses went to the top of Mount Horeb, that he began to hold his hand up. And as he held his hand up, Israel prevailed. But when his hands got kind of weak, and he started to drop down his hands, then Amalek prevailed. See, it was all predicated on their leader.
Yes, sir. That's good.
Let me hold right there for a second.
All right. Break it down. Break it down.
When Moses was visibly holding his hands up,
All right.
the children of Israel had no problem
That's it. That's
with the
it.
Amalekites.
That's it.
But when his hands started to get tired,
Yeah.
just like I'm sure Bishop in his 42 years, his hands got tired.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes his hands went down just a little bit. That's when we got to go and lift up his hands. We got to pray for him. We got to pray for his sin. We got to pray for his children. Because if he's weighed down with the cares of his life, he can't pray properly for us. And not only just pray for him, but support him. When he goes to preach, when he has a need, support him. That's what the church is about, to rally behind your leaders. See, the children of Israel would have rallied behind Moses. They would have stayed in the wilderness for 40 years. Here we are 42 years in. Have we got out of the wilderness yet? Do you think that if we would continue to support our leader even the more financially, Lord, with prayers and even going to the services with him, do you think that maybe we can get out of some of our wildernesses?
All right. All right now.
My God.
Preach it, preach it.
And since it's the Veterans Day, we as soldiers around and we are now soldiers in the army of the Lord.
That's right.
We've got to look to the standard which is in Jesus Christ.
Yes.
See, this man speaks Jesus to us so that we can live for Jesus
Amen.
and live unto Jesus.
Yeah.
But when we live unto Jesus, we have a standard.
Yeah.
And we must continue to lift up that standard everywhere that we go.
Amen.
And since you're enlisted in the army of the Lord, here are some dangers. You will be lied on. Can I get a witness? You will be talked about. You will be criticized. You will be shunned of men. You will be in a situation where you don't have any friends anymore. You will have to walk alone. You will have to suffer sometimes. You will have some backbiting against you. You will be in some kind of lack. You will have some problems along the way. But be encouraged. Because the God that we serve, he's rich in mercy. And he's mighty in battle. Whenever that comes up from the rear, the God that I serve, he's my rear guard. He's my shepherd that leads me. He's my rod and my staff that comforts me. He's my goodness and my mercy that follows me. I can stand on the rock that's higher than I. Because he's my shepherd and he leads me through the paths that I go. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I got to hold up the standard. Every day I got to hold up the standard.
Hold it up.
Because you may be the only standard bearer that the world knows.
I know that's right.
Everywhere you go, you got to hold up the standard. You got to walk according to your calling. Don't get jealous for somebody else's calling. Because God wants to use you right where you're at. Be faithful in what he's giving you and he'll give you more. God is faithful to his children. Watch this. Watch this. Every day you got to put on your uniform. What is that uniform? It's the whole armor of God. Ephesians 6:12 says, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So stand and hold up the standard. And when you're done all you can do to stand, stand therefore. We need to get down to the supply room so we can pick up our weapons of warfare. We can pick up the helmet of salvation. We can pick up the breastplate of righteousness. We can shod our feet with the boots of righteousness. The preparation of the gospel of preach. Above all things, take on the shield of faith. Because the shield of faith is going to deflect those fiery darts that you're going to get in this journey.
Good, son.
Pray always, with all prayer and supplication. Because Jesus said in the Bible, he said, if you seek my face and turn from your wicked ways. Turn. But when you turn, don't turn 360. Can I get a witness? 360 will put you right back where you started. You can turn 5 degrees, you can turn 30 degrees, you can turn 180 degrees, but don't turn 360. He wants you to go in a different direction. Because we got to hold up the standard, y'all. He said, lift up your hands in the sanctuary and bless the Lord. Being confident in this one thing, that he hath begun a good work, will complete it to the day of Jesus Christ. So don't grow weary in well-doing, because you shall receive if you faint not. Though it tarry, that is that gift, wait for it.
Wait for it.
Because it'll truly come. It will not tarry. In other words, it'll be there when it's supposed to get there. So what's your job in all this? Is to lift up the standard. When you don't know that Bishop's praying for you, lift up your own standard. It says lift up holy hands without wrath or doubting. When when you get down and discouraged, lift up your own hand and be reminded that Jesus hung up on the cross for you. And not only did he hang up on the cross for you, but he hung up on the cross for me. And they took him down from that old rugged cross. And they placed him in a borrowed tomb. And on the third day, he rose with all power in his hand, in heaven and in earth. So all you got to do when you start feeling down on yourself, because this battlefield is in the mind, you got to look to the hills for which cometh your help. Your help will come from the Lord who made the heavens and the earth. So when you get feeling down, feel like you can't go any further, just lift up your own standard. Lift up your heads, all ye gates, and be ye lifted up, the everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty. The Lord, mighty in battle. Come on, church, lift up your hands. If you're going through something, you got to look to the hills, because that's where our help comes from. Hold up the standard. Hold up the standard. Hold up the standard. He said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That means to get in contact with it. If you ever seen two oxen, I didn't grow up in the 80s where they had oxen. We had tractors when I came along. But the oxen would yoke up. So when one moved, the other one had to move.
That's right.
When one pulled, got a little slack, the other one gave him a little help.
Yes, sir.
To help him, encourage him along the way.
Yes, sir.
We've got to yoke up with one another.
Yes.
We got to encourage one another.
Amen.
Don't forsake the gathering of the brethren together.
Amen.
Iron sharpens iron.
Uh-huh.
These are not just sayings. These are things that work.
Yes, sir.
All my veterans out there, you know what I'm talking about. When you're in a unit and you're running and you're singing cadences, you feel like you can't make it any further. Just looking over at your brother to your left and to your right, it gives you the encouragement to go just a little bit further. We as the body of Christ have to adopt some of those same principles. We got to go just a little bit further and do what God has called us to do, because the Amaleks are attacking the rear. Can I get a witness? Well, here's the end of the story. It said that what they did, Aaron and Hur went to the top of the mountain with Moses.
Yes,
And
sir.
when they got there, his hands became weak and started to fall down. And so what they did is they slipped a rock up under the end of Moses. And I could just imagine in my spiritual imagination that they put him at a position where Joshua could see him. And they put him right at the edge of Mount Horeb. And as he began to fight in the battle with Amalek, as he began to fight in the battle with his problems, as he began to fight in the battle with his enemy, then he glanced up to the hill and he said, I can go a little bit further. He tell the men, fight a little bit harder, because we got to destroy this enemy. Call Amalek, call death, call hurt, call pain, call sickness, call strife. We got to fight this enemy. And the only way we can fight him is if we keep our hands up, if we hold up the standard of Jesus Christ. Because if we hold up that standard, we can do anything. He said all things are possible to them that believe. We got to believe that we serve a God who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we can ask or think. Hallelujah. So Joshua says he discomfited the Amalek. What does that mean? That means that he knocked them down. He knocked them into a prostrated position. And you know, as a soldier or a fighter, if you fall on your stomach, you're no good. But if you fall on your back, you can get up. If you can look up, you can get up. He put them in a position that they couldn't even look up. And he discomfited them. That means he knocked them down. He demoralized them. He put his foot on their back. He put his foot on their neck. And he began to discomfit the Amaleks. And he saved his rear guard. Can I get a witness? Why are we talking about the standard? Because later what Moses did is he built an altar there. And he named it Jehovah Nissi. The Lord, my banner.
Yes, sir.
In other words, the Lord, my standard.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
The Lord is our standard.
Yes.
So when you get in a situation that you can't handle by yourself, look to the standard. Because everything in the Word of God is for you. You don't have to pray if it be your will. Because it's in His Word and it applies to you who are a believer. And if it applies to you, you have to have the faith enough to believe that it is for you. Amen?
Amen.
Let me say that again. If it applies to you, you have to have the faith enough to believe that it is for you. Because He said in His Word that everything in my Word is yes and amen. Somewhere between the yes and the amen, we tend to lose faith. And we begin to murmur and complain with our leader and chide with him. So along that yes and amen, we chide with our leader and we lose faith and we miss the blessing.
That's it. Hallelujah. That's good.
Joy in the journey. Don't let Amalek discomfit you. You discomfit him.
Right.
Walk in that blessing that God has given you. Speak life in your dead situation. Maybe it's not as dead as you think it is.
That's right. Thank you, God.
There was life in a rock
Hallelujah.
that sustained the whole village. 600,000 people were sustained by the provisions in a rock.
All right. Good.
I don't want no rock crying out for me. Because I can lift up my own standard. Hold up the standard. There's blessings. There's honor. There's life in holding up the standard. That's the word for the day.
Bless you.
Jehovah is my banner. It is my standard. Now, if you don't know what your standard is, if you never had an encounter
Hallelujah.
with your standard,
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
I invite you to try the standard for the whole world. That is Jesus Christ. Now I know we've been murmuring and complaining and not walking according to what God has called us to walk. We've erred in the way. But in the midst of all of that, God still protected them. He still led them.
Yes, He did.
He made provisions even for the murmurers.
Yes, He did.
But He gave the blessing.
Yes, sir.
He gave the blessing to the faithful. So I invite you, if you don't know Jesus Christ and the pardon of your sin,
My.
the doors of the kingdom and the church is open.
Hallelujah.
If you've been murmuring and complaining, now's the time to get it right. It's a new day, brand new year. Let's go into year 43 for our bishop. Follow what the man of God puts before us. Following. If you want to be a good leader, you got to be a good follower.
That's it.
I'm reminded of the centurion. He was in authority, but he was under authority.
Yes, sir.
He believed so much in the power that Jesus had, he said, if you just speak the word, he said, my servant will be healed.
That's it.
Do you know that you have that same power? Why? Because he said, greater works shall you do. Let's keep it in context. He was talking about the body as a whole, but he was talking about you as an individual in your situations. But you gotta only believe. But you gotta have something to believe in and to believe on. Please come. If you have some areas in your life that you're unsure about, now's the time to come.
Yes, sir.
So we can pray with you and pray for you.
Yes, sir.
You can be saved and just got finished speaking in tongues, but you still don't believe.
That's it. That's it. I know it's right.
If you just need somebody to touch and agree with you on what God has given you,
Hallelujah.
come down. Because we're going to encourage the brethren and the sisters. Amen. Or if y'all see something, hold up the standard.
Hallelujah.
Everywhere you go,
Hold it up.
others might see the standard in your life and be drawn to what you believe in. Don't mean you got to wear a dress down to here.
Say something.
Or you got to wear a tie everywhere you go. He said, only believe.
There will be mountains
Only believe.
that I would have to climb.
Some tools to help you believe.
There will be
Write the vision down.
that I would
Revisit it.
have
Go back. Read it.
but victory
You won't be able to run with it.
or defeat, it's up to me to decide. But how can I expect to win if I never try? Oh, I I've gone too far. 'Cause nobody told me that the road would be easy. And I just don't believe.
If anybody needs prayer, you can come up at this time. Little prayer, little power. Much prayer, much power.
Though I can't see clearly, I know that you are with me, so I can't give up now, 'cause I've come too far, yeah.
Elders will be coming down, anointing. You want to be anointed? Lift up your hands.
I don't believe he brought me this far. Don't believe he brought me this far. Every mountains to climb, valleys to cross. But I don't believe he brought me this far. Turn around and leave me alone. I don't believe he brought me this far. To leave me, no, I don't believe.
I'm going to ask the elder in the class
in the name of Jesus. God, it's once again, oh God, that we come before your presence, oh Father. Father, we thank you, Lord God, for what you're doing, Lord God, even right now, oh Father. Father, I pray, Lord God, that you touch the hearts, Lord God, your peoples, oh Father. I pray, Lord God, that you give them, Lord God, what they so desire, Lord God, even on today, oh Father. Father, I pray, Lord God, that you change the situations, oh Father God, in the name of Jesus. That only you can do it, oh Father. And God, we glorify you for it right now. Father, I thank you, Lord God, for healing your peoples, Lord God, in the name of Jesus. God, because you know what's going on inside their body, Father. I don't, Lord God, but you do, oh Father. God, I believe, Lord God, that somebody needs a healing, Lord God, even on today, oh Father. And God, I pray, God, that you will touch them, Lord God, from the crown of their head, God, to the soles of their feet, oh Father. And God, we glorify you for it right now. Father, you said you were wounded for our transgression. You said you were abused for our iniquities. The chastisement of peace, God, was upon. And by your stripes, Lord God, we are healed, Lord God. And we thank you, Lord God, for healing, for moving right now, Lord God. Even in the room, oh Lord God, in the name of Jesus. God, I come against breast cancer, Lord, Father God, in the name of Jesus. I bind it up right now, Father God, in the name of Jesus. I pray, God, that you heal right now, Father, in the name of Jesus, Lord God. I don't know, Lord God, but I believe, Lord God, somebody is experiencing, Lord, Father God, some unconscious, Lord, Father God, even inside the chest area, Father God, in the name of Jesus, Lord God. And I pray, God, Lord, Father God, that you will heal them right now, God, in the name of Jesus. Let your divine will be done, sir, that your son may be glorified. I pray, Lord God, that you respond to my ears, Lord God, even on today, oh Father God. Somebody, Lord God, been having problems, Lord God, even with their ears, Lord God. And I pray, Lord God, that you will heal right now, Father God, in the name of Jesus. And I glorify you for it right now. Even around that heart, Lord, Father God. Somebody been having some comments, Lord God, even around the heart, Father God. I pray, Lord God, that you will heal right now, God, in the name of Jesus. Let your divine will be done, sir, that your son can be glorified. In Jesus' most holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let's continue to lift up the name of Jesus as we return to our seats. If you haven't been anointed, please stay. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Wait on your blessing.